Welcome to Artistic Horsepower. It's James here, and today we're going to be talking about the AMG GT-R. Hit it! Hey everybody, let's jump right into it and talk about the AMG GT-R. The AMG GT-R is also known as the Green Beast from Hell. Now, for those of you that don't know the history of the line, the GT-R comes as the successor to the SLS, and the history of the SLS, or the SL line, goes all the way back to 1955 to the Mercedes 300 SL. That was an absolutely beautiful car, which a lot of the modern styling cues actually came out of. Now, the SLS itself ran from the 2010 year to 2014, and in 2015, Mercedes AMG dropped the SLS badge and created the GT line. Now, the GT started with two models. There was the regular GT and there was the GTS, and that was 2015 and 2016 that those models were around for. Starting in 2017, they introduced two more models, and those models include the GT-R that we're about to talk about today and the GTC, which is the roadster version. Now, why is it known as the Green Beast from Hell? Well, even though there is technically 12 color options for the GT-R, the most iconic one, and the one that I guess Mercedes AMG has been basically advertising the car in, is a color that's actually known as Green Hell Magno. So that's where it gets the Green Beast from Hell name, because Mercedes AMG basically wanted the car to be known as a monster, basically. So if we start talking about the front, how about the grille? It looks absolutely phenomenal. It's got these bright chrome in-your-face bars that run right across the front of the car. I think that it's a very, very aggressive, very angry look. It kind of reminds me of an incinerator. It makes you think that the engine behind that grille is an incinerator. You imagine seeing this red, fiery glow like it's going to burn everything in its path to ashes. Can I mention the Mercedes badge? This is not something that's exclusive to the GT-R or the GT series or anything. This is pretty much across the Mercedes line. And I think it looks good, but I think it's absolutely hilarious. And I swear to God, it's almost the size of my head. It's humongous. It's like Mercedes really, really wants you to remember that you're driving a Mercedes, and it wants everyone else around you to know that you're driving a Mercedes-Benz. Now, the grille itself is also not a carbon copy if it's historic roots in the 300 SL, but it maintains a lot of the same characteristics. It has a very similar shape and design, and the styling cues have kind of followed through right through to today, although it does look a little more modern and futuristic right now. Now let's talk about the induction vents. The induction vents off to the side are pretty cool because they actually remind me of a dog, and here's how. You know when a dog growls and clenches his teeth and the front of its mouth is kind of a little skinnier, but the outside, there's almost this loose skin on the outside that kind of puffs open? That's exactly what it reminds me of, because the air vents that provide cooling to the brakes kind of have that loose skin, that look, that the loose skin on a dog when it's growling and it kind of pops open on the sides. It reminds me of that, and then as you make your way to the center of the car, it pinches right off. There's also smaller air vents on the sides that are meant to provide extra cooling to the wheel well area in general, and I think that they look kind of, they look cool, but they're kind of funny because they remind me of dimples. That's exactly what they look like. They look exactly like dimples. Now let's talk about the headlights. Something that you'll notice over the course of following videos is the fact that I'm going to focus a lot on headlights, because headlights of the past, they used to be very simple, kind of an afterthought. They didn't really look cool or anything. They were just meant to do their job. But in today's world, headlights have a lot more to them. They're a lot more complex. They're a lot more stylized and meant to actually add to the style of the car. So what's interesting about the headlights on the GT-R, well, let me compare them with the SLS. The SLS, I love the look of the headlights, and I'm not bashing them when I say this. I just think it's absolutely comical. The front of the SLS, the headlights had 23 small individual LED lights in the headlight housing. If you look above the main headlamp on the SLS, there's a row of 6, followed by a row of 7, and then below the main headlamp, there's double rows of 5. Now, if you look at the GT-R, they've cleaned that up a lot. There's only 11 at the top. If you look at the very, very top of the headlight, you'll notice that there's 11 small LEDs. That's less than half, 23 small individual LEDs in the headlamp of the SLS and only 11 in the AMG. Something I also really like about the GT-R's headlights is the L-shaped light bar that goes from the bottom inside corner to the top outside corner. I think it looks very sleek, very stylish, very futuristic. I think that if you combine the fact that the GT-R only has the 11 lights up top as opposed to 23, and that straight light, the L-shaped light bar that is just one long strip of light as opposed to all these individual, it cleans it up, it makes it look a lot cleaner basically. I think that the SLS looked more aggressive that way, and the GT-R looks a lot cleaner. One other thing that I really like about the headlights is actually the main headlamp in the center is framed with this bright in-your-face chrome frame, and I think it looks super, super good. It was also on the SLS as well, but it was a little more subtle. It's a little more, they put a beefier chrome piece in there in the GT-R, and I think the in-your-face look really helps emphasize that monster that the car is supposed to be. Now let's talk about the hood. Well, the hood is the same hood that we all know and love from these cars, the long extended hood, which offers a couple positives and a couple drawbacks. Now, one of the drawbacks that normally happens with a longer hood is drivability, because you have this super long hood. It's hard to tell exactly where your car is, the spacing around your car. Mercedes has countered that though, because if you look at the GT-R, the hood swoops right down. So even though it has a really, really long hood, it makes it a lot easier to drive still, because the hood swoops down so much that it doesn't sacrifice a lot of that drivability. The other benefit to having a long hood is weight distribution. The GT-R is technically a front engine car, but it has such a long hood that they're able to actually move the engine back to the point where it's almost behind the front wheels, which basically makes it a mid-engine car because it centers the weight a lot better, and that helps a lot with handling and stability. There's only really one main difference between the SLS hood and the GT-R hood, and that's the lack of an induction vent. The SLS has an induction vent to feed air to the engine. The GT-R does not. And really the only difference that makes visually is that the SLS maybe looks a little more aggressive, whereas the GT-R looks a little more clean because it doesn't have that vent. I don't think that either looks better or worse than the other. I think that one of them is just more aggressive and one of them is cleaner looking. The hood also has two crease lines that run from the windshield all the way to the bottom of the hood on the outsides, and on the inside there's a subtle crease line that kind of fades in. The further down the hood you go, the more apparent the middle crease becomes, and I like that. It's very subtle. It keeps the hood very simple and basic, yet very sleek and stylish at the same time. Moving on to the side of the car, let's talk a little bit about the lines and the curves, which are absolutely beautiful on the GT-R. The side skirt and the body line above it, I like how they diverge. If you start at the front of the car and you make your way towards the back, the two lines, the body lines from the skirt and the line above it, start to diverge, and I really like the look that creates, that the further back in the car you go, the more it opens up. I think that it's a really good effect that it creates. The aero vents behind the wheels, I absolutely love them. I love those aero vents. Stay in your own lane, buddy, stay in your own lane, thank you. I love the aero vents. I think they look so aggressive in the GT-R. I think they look so amazing. I like them better than the SLS, because in the SLS they were more elongated. They extended further down the car vertically, and in the GT-R they've kind of compressed it a bit. They've made it a little more compressed, a little more compact, and I think that it looks really good. Now let's talk about the rear of the car. We can't talk about the car, we're talking about the absolutely crazy aggressive spoiler on this thing. Sometimes I like crazy spoilers and sometimes I don't. It really depends on the car for me. In this case, I think they made the right choice. It's really aggressive, really bold, really out there, and some people sometimes think that big wing look kind of looks D-baggy sometimes, if you know what I mean. I personally think the spoiler on this car makes it look like an absolute monster, but not D-baggy, because the point of this car is to be in your face, and Mercedes did a really good job of just making it something that I think everybody can appreciate for the aggressiveness that it has. The other great thing about the spoiler is the fact that it's manually adjustable, so you can adjust it to your liking. If you own one of these cars, you can adjust it to the angle that you think looks best, and that's obviously a good feature. And of course, it's also functional as well. It creates downforce at the insanely high top speeds that this car can actually achieve. I really like how the lights are set up, because I think that it looks very futuristic. It's got two light bars, one on the top, one on the bottom. They start wide on the outside, move skinny to the inside, and they look very lasery, very futuristic, and I love the look. And inside of them, there is LED lights that create a broken line. Now, in this case, there's nothing wrong with them. I think that it looks really good. It's really hilarious because there is 18 of them on each light on the back of the car. The broken line between the two solid lines is 18 small lights. So I really think that Mercedes AMG clearly has a miniature light fetish that they're fulfilling, because they like those lights more than anything, I swear. Moving on to one of my favorite parts of the entire car, and that is the rear exhaust and the rear diffuser. I think it might be my favorite part, and you want to know why? Because the rear of this car really looks like a fighter jet. It is absolutely incredible, and I love it to death. And the reason for that is the exhaust is a center-mounted exhaust, so it comes right out the center of the rear of the car. It looks like two jet engines coming out the back of a fighter jet, and that is what looks so cool about it. And moving on to the diffuser, which you can tell I'm excited about this because it looks awesome. The diffuser looks like flaps. Look at their shape. Look at how they flare out like that, and they kind of have a more flat bottom and a rounded top. It looks like airplane flaps. And that is, it really is truly, oh, here, I'll be nice and let you in. There you go. They look absolutely amazing. It looks like a fighter jet. It really makes the rear end of this car look like the monster that it is, look like it just came out of war, look like it's just absolutely phenomenal. So let's talk some specs on this bad boy. Well, the base price of the GT-R is $195,000 before options, and you're probably thinking, is that worth it? Can I be honest with you? Even just on looks alone, I think it would definitely be worth it. I think it is a stunning car that is unique like no other. I think when you see it on the road, it stands out from everything. It's absolutely terrifying and intriguing all at once, and I love it so much, and I think that on looks alone, it's even worth the money. A nice feature that it also has is it does feature rear wheel steering, so it does have all-wheel steering, which means it handles that much better around corners because those rear wheels are helping you out when you go around corners. So that is definitely an amazing feature. Now, what is under the hood of this crazy beast? It's a 4-liter twin-turbo V8 that makes 577 horsepower and 516 pound-feet of torque at 5,500 RPMs. This thing is truly an absolute beast. All that insane power is sent to the wheels via a 7-speed dual-clutch transmission that propels the GT-R from 0 to 60 in 2.8 seconds and rockets it to its absurd top speed of 198 miles per hour. That's right, this thing is 2 miles per hour shy of 200 miles per hour. That's 317 kilometers an hour for the metrics out there. It is absolutely insane. This car is one of the all-around most sick-looking cars in the world, I personally think, and is an absolutely insane performer as well. I think that if I had the money, it would definitely be on my shopping list. It would definitely be something I would spend my money on and seriously consider. The AMG GT-R is an absolutely amazing car. I really hope you guys enjoyed the video. Tell me what you think of the AMG GT-R below. I'd love to hear what your thoughts and opinions are on it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.